Okay, well, Francois, thank you for joining me in the Slow Hustle show. The very first guest I've had on the show. I hugely appreciate you joining me. Why don't you kick off by telling us who you are and what you do?
Well, Nick, my name is Francois Naude, and I am a super teacher. And I do get how arrogant that sounds. I mean, a lot of people will go like, whoa, this guy's got a big ego. And I mean, until you meet me, you're entitled to your own wrong opinion. But the point being, I believe strongly that teachers are going to make a massive impact in society in general. I mean, we've got so many kids going through our classrooms that the influence that teachers have is immense. And face it, we don't need more teachers. We need more super teachers. We need people that are in the eyes of children, are seen as superheroes, that are great role models. And what I do is that I assist other teachers in teaching like the superheroes that they are. So especially now with COVID and the challenges that teachers are facing, I've got my hands full in assisting my colleagues in just finding the pedagogies, the practices, the things that are going to make them super teachers. So in short, that's what I do.
Amazing. How did you find yourself where you are? What was the process that led you to be a super teacher?
Well, the funny thing is, I never wanted to be a teacher. I think that was one of the professions that was right at the bottom of my wish list. In actual fact, when I was in school, one of my own teachers asked me, "So what you want to do?" And I said, "I'm considering teaching." And my own teacher said, "Hell no, there's no way." And his words, and I still remember it clearly, he's like, "You are capable of so much more than being just a teacher."
Wow.
And that shaped my view of the teaching profession in general. It's like this view of teachers are lesser people, almost like those who can't do teach mentality.
Yeah, I hate
And I
that.
thought, yeah, and then I just went, you know what? Let me go and study something that's prestigious. Let me try and figure out a job where people will look up to me. I don't want ever people to say like, "Oh, you're just a teacher." So I thought, what are the different types of careers I can follow? And I considered medicine. I was like, nah, I don't want to do that. Chartered accounting, because people always look up to the chartered accountants. And at the end of the day, I ended up studying a degree in biochemistry and zoology,
Okay.
but hated every minute of it.
Okay.
And long story short, in my honors year, one of my lecturers said, "Won't you consider becoming a teacher because you're doing good work with your peers?" And I thought, you know what, let's give it a shot. Teaching is the best career for a lazy student because it's only a half-day job. You get 4 holidays a year, those type of things. Got into a classroom, and after teaching 360, 50, 15-year-olds, I fell in love with the profession. And the rest is kind of history, just dedicating my life from here on out to teaching.
Okay, that's really interesting. But teaching isn't the only thing you do, right? You have a business around teaching. So what was the evolution of that from, hey, I'm a career teacher to hold on, there's more here?
So in 2012, I won the National Teachers Award for excellence in secondary school teaching. And that became a springboard for me for many other things. At the same time, I was completing my master's degree in education. And the University of Johannesburg asked me to come and train other teachers. And that was a big dream of mine, is to be a university lecturer. Once again, not just a typical teacher, but a teacher at a university, other people looking up to you. And I started teaching at the university in the same time completing my PhD. And I realized that being in academia and being a lecturer is not all that I thought it was going to be. In actual fact, I became miserable because I was taken away from the thing that gave me energy. Because in academia, you spend less time in the classroom and more time with research and admin and community engagement. And that's just not what fits my personality. So in 2018, I also went through a very sad divorce. I had this pressure of completing my PhD. They told me if I don't complete my PhD in 2018, they're not going to renew my contract. And I started making all these plans. How can I, if this were to happen, I'm on my own. I don't have any dependents attached to me. And I need to maybe start earning money that's not linked to my profession, being a career or a lecturer and earning a salary. What is it that I can start doing that's going to earn me an income? So I did two things. I started coaching other teachers on the sideline as a slow hustle, if you wish.
Hmm.
That's the one. And then I started having ideas on how can we improve the education system. And from that was born two companies. The one is called World Tracker. That's WIL. The acronym stands for Work Integrated Learning. So
Okay.
that's the practical aspect of teaching. It's like assisting teachers, student teachers, and university lecturers to come together on a platform. So it's basically the Uber of teacher practice and sorting all
Nice.
of that out. And then the latest one is Go Teach, a recruitment company for teachers. Well, I want to make sure that we put super teachers in schools, and that's basically, in a nutshell, what I'm up to.
That's amazing. And considering that your skill set is in the actual practice of teaching, what in your businesses comes the least naturally to you that you do every day? Like, what do you struggle with that you just kind of you have to do?
Hmm. I am people facing. I love working with people, like from the classroom interact. So the social aspect of business comes naturally to me.
Mm.
It's the admin part of it. And that was true when I was a teacher as well. I mean, the amount of admin that teachers need to do is horrendous, I think. And that just doesn't suit my personality. So from accounting to setting up meetings to I almost want to say the laborious stuff of
Mm.
the grinding stuff of business is not what I'm used to. But working with people, selling to people, explaining things to people, that comes naturally.
And how do you cope with the things that you struggle with? Like, what are your solutions to those things? Because I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh, I've got a good idea. And they think that it's all the fun stuff. But you're right. It's the hard stuff that actually makes a good business, not the easy stuff.
Well, I surround myself with competent people. That's the saving grace of my life. From the first moment, I mean, capital wasn't great at the start, so I bootstrapped getting in an accountant, knowing that this is something that if I screw this up, it's the end before it began. So
Yeah.
I just luckily I do CrossFit, and I'll tell people about it because that's what CrossFitters do. In our gym, we've got a lot of people. So within the network, there was an accountant. The two of us were good friends, and I said, you know what, please, can you do my accounting? She came on board. And then immediately I also realized that the administration around quoting and invoicing, I needed an assistant. So my mother is actually doing all of that for me whilst also having her full-time job. But like surrounding myself with people is important. And then for the ed tech companies like the recruitment company and for World Tracker, I met Shari Joseph. She's the CEO of Eduvation Network. She specializes in, or her company specializes in software development in the education space. And the two of us got to know each other through social media. So I went to her with my ideas. I said, here are my ideas. You want to develop it. And we made a partnership of it. So surrounding myself with competent people in the areas that I'm not comfortable with is 100% the reason for the success.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's interesting to me that you found someone so early on, and then you were like, "Oh, I'm happy to partner with you." A lot of people in their early side hustles are like, "No, it's mine. I'm going to hang on to it. I don't care who's going to join me. I'm going to do this all myself," and it actually ends up killing their business. So, what was the thinking behind, screw it, let me just partner with someone?
Well, ideas are plenty. Anybody can have ideas. I mean, like our brains are amazing. You come up with ideas one after the other, and once you start having ideas, it's a snowball effect. Like one idea on the other, just problem solving. I realized quite quickly that if I don't partner with people who can actually put the thing, build the thing, that idea is just going to remain an idea. So I can have 100% of zero and that remains zero, or I can have 50% of a massive business and that's exponentially more than I'll ever have if I can't build it on my own. So I'd say don't be precious about your ideas. The more we have idea sex, and I like this idea of I almost want to call it idea orgies. It's like surround yourself with other people, share your ideas with them freely because they're not going to run away with your idea. I mean, the chances of that happening, people are not as invested in your ideas as you think. And you start spitballing, brainstorming, and it gets a life of its own. There's conception of ideas. And that's not your idea. It's you as with the partners that you surround yourself with. So just having them being part of the process, if it wasn't for them, there wouldn't have been a product or a service.
And Francois, I love that. I'm going to steal ideas orgies from you. Hands down, I'll credit you, but guaranteed I'm going to use that in the future. Love that idea because you're right. And it's a very famous concept that ideas are not special. They're not unique. It's all about the execution. So I love that. And I think that's really smart. I want to jump back to the funding of these businesses. So these businesses are definitely side hustles for you. Your main job is teaching and earning income there. How did you fund them in the beginning? What was your thinking around actual money?
Yeah, and that's one skill set that I don't have. I'm very bad with money. I just took a leap of faith, and I'm not advising anybody to do this. I was in a space in my life where I could take the risk in going through the divorce, knowing that this is just me on my own. Knowing that if I quit my job at the university, at least I've got a little bit of a fund built up in the pension fund. And I like totally went against the grain, and all of the advice that I was given is like, you need to have a pension for when you're old. The later you start with a pension fund, the less capital you have to retire on. And all of this is true. But my life came to an abrupt halt. And I just said, you know what? I want to start living life on my terms. So I basically bootstrapped and took the investment from my pension fund. Paid off all the debts, because that's one thing that I racked up from youth. I mean, the first paycheck I got, I basically blew and got a credit card, and my debt was for my age and for what I've accomplished was it was way too much debt. So I took that, I cleared all of my debt, I paid off my car, and literally said, from here on out, it's me. I burnt all the boats, and I went like, I have to make this work. So having the idea and the skill set of working with teachers, starting coaching, and gradually using the funding from that to grow the business. But I must say, I think my skill in selling my ideas helps a lot, because I can pitch proposals to people who have money and who have capital, who need the skill set that I have. So that I want also to say the networking effect is very important. And that I could sell to these people, I can solve your problems with my skill set and then working off their money. And I must say, in the last year or so, that really started paying dividends.
Yeah, and two things I want to highlight there that I think are so important that I tell people about their side hustles all the time is you cannot build a side hustle with your last dollar. It doesn't make sense. It's too difficult. If you're in debt, first focus on paying that debt off, then get some savings, then build a side hustle. So I think that's really smart. And the other thing you said that I think resonates with the slow hustle community is you slowly took money from one thing and slowly put it into the next thing and evolved one to the other. It's not overnight. Nobody owes you R1 million to kickstart your brilliant idea. Sometimes you got to do it slowly.
And the thing is, I think that the evolution of your slow hustle is very important. My major thing for my 20s and early 30s was I wanted a partner to share my life with. And I focused all my energy in getting married. Look where that got me. But what I remember clearly was it's probably 2 months before the wedding in 2016. I realized like, okay, I've now achieved this goal. I've got my life partner.
Yeah.
What's next? And that's when I started. I read, I think it was in February of 2016, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that just lit a fire under me. It's like, okay, I need to now think of prosperity. And from 2016 and listening to Gary Vaynerchuk, I was like, I have to start a YouTube channel for teachers. There isn't a lot of YouTube channels for teachers, especially South African teachers.
Yeah.
And I just started in 2016. And I thought my whole thing is going to be, I am going to get revenue from ad spend and AdSense, and people are going to sponsor my YouTube show. But the point being, I had to start. And what I'm doing today, I still have the YouTube channel. I still have the podcast, but I don't, that's not my main, that's the fun I'm having.
Yeah.
So the evolution of your hustle is so important. It's like, but you have to start.
That's so key is you can't evolve something that doesn't exist. And it only evolves when it's out in public in the world. There is this movement at the moment called Build in Public, and I love the idea of build your businesses in public. Tell people what you're doing. Tell people how you're doing it, and then they want to jump on board with you. Nobody's trying to jack your idea. Just you think people care about your shit? They don't. They are so worried about their own ideas that they're not stealing yours. So yeah, I love that. Okay, the final question I have is, what do you wish someone told you when you were just starting out with your businesses?
It's not as easy as you think it's going to be. There's this bias called the Dunning-Kruger. I have to make sure that's the right one. The Dunning-Kruger bias.
Mhm.
When you start off and you are inexperienced, you think you can achieve anything. And I suffered from Dunning-Kruger bias immensely. But I think it's a good thing, because without that bias, I probably wouldn't have started.
Yeah.
But as you continue, you realize challenge upon challenge upon challenge, your confidence gets a knock, but you start gaining experience, you start learning, you want to solve the challenges. So if somebody just told me at the start, okay, cool, you've got all this energy, you've got all this passion, but I think you have to give this a little bit more thought. To give you an idea here, I basically spent 200K of funders' money on a platform that nobody wanted to buy. I was so convinced that I had a solution for a problem. I got somebody else's money invested into a project, and no customers, nobody buying it. So
Yeah.
maybe just channeling all that energy from the start with like an expert coach or somebody that can assist you in
Mm.
building your hustle, I think that would have accelerated my business.
Yeah, I like to tell people to surround themselves with people that they want to be like. And that I've never had an official mentor, like in the traditional sense, but all of my friends are people that I completely am enamored with and I want to be like, and they help. So I think you're right. That stuff does help. I do think that's really good advice. It's why this community of mine is called the Slow Hustle, because it's harder than you think it is. It's going to take longer than you think it will. It's going to probably take more money than you think it will. But if you do it right in the beginning, it's worth it in the end.
For sure.
So, Francois, finally, just tell viewers and listeners where they can find you and your businesses, where they can follow you online, and anything else you'd like to say.
Staysuper.co.za. That's the link that takes you to my website. Everything you need to know is on the website. I typically tell people the best place to find out what I'm busy with is to subscribe to the newsletter. I send out a newsletter once a week where I share my thoughts on education and learning, and share resources with teachers to help them to teach like a superhero.
Awesome. That is amazing. I love the work you do, and I have no doubt if we keep at it, it's going to reap the fruits that you expect, my man. Thank you so much for giving me your time.
Thanks for the interview, Nick. I really appreciate it.